Okay, so I'll just check that everything technical around here works as it's supposed to. So this is a bit of a new setup for me. I'm in my old workshop, which is actually now just a storage room. So in the next month or so, I will be moving with my family out of Copenhagen. So we bought a farmhouse in an island called Langeland in Denmark. So we'll have loads of space, and I'll have I'll have space to build a very big workshop, which I'm really looking forward to. So it's an old barn which needs quite a bit of work to become sort of ready for use, but it's gonna be fun. So I really love living in Copenhagen. I've been living here for 15 years now, and I really like the place, but it's become, a little bit too tight for the type of work that I do. My wife's a writer, so what she does doesn't really require us to be in the city either. And everything's become so expensive that we decided we wanted to try and move out. So we'll be doing that in a month's time or so. So right now I'm in our storage room, which I've sort of set up as a temporary office. Okay, so I hope you have sound. I hope you have an image. You're supposed to see sort of a slide which says introductory webinar, Fiddlehead Canoe boat building apprenticeship. And you're supposed to see a small thumbnail photo of me up in the corner. So if you can see that, please let me know in the chat. I think it's supposed to be working as far as I can see from here. But if you experience any problems or any dropouts or any technical issues of any kind, then please write it in the chat so I know. Okay, but let's get started. So the agenda for today is, first I'd like to just tell a very brief story of how Small Boat School came to be. Then I'd like to talk about a concept that I call the Apprenticeship Way of Learning, which is sort of the core of how I teach boat building at Small Boat School. And then finishing off, I'd like to tell you about the Fiddlehead Canoe Apprenticeship Program, which is opening for registration today. Okay. Yeah, and if you have questions, then please just let me know in the chat, and I'll try to catch up with these questions as quick as I can. I might not see a question right away, but whenever I see a question, I'll try to answer it as best I can. Okay, so a very brief story of what Small Boat School is. So my name is Mikkel. I'm 44 years old. I'm a boat builder and I'm the founder at Small Boat School. So my background is actually not in boat building. So I started out sort of in a more academic line of work. I started studying media in 1998, and in 2005 I got my master's degree in media studies. After finishing university, I worked around 10 years in office jobs, so in media and design. So, so good jobs, but very office-like jobs. So I actually really like these jobs. So they were interesting in many ways, very challenging, very intellectually stimulating, great colleagues, nice lunch, good coffee, so forth. But I felt that there was sort of something missing. So I felt that I was kind of stuck on my chair, kind of stuck at the keyboard, kind of stuck staring at the screen, typing. So some of you guys might know this feeling, but when I was done at work, I felt that I had to, go exercise or go jogging or something like that, just to keep my body from falling apart. And it just didn't quite feel right for me. And actually, I did a project at the last place I worked, which was a design agency, where we did a project about trade schools, so about all the vocational schools, I think they're called. So, and all the different things that you can learn at these schools, like becoming a carpenter, or becoming a mason, or becoming an electrician and stuff like that. But I also learned about the boat building program, and I realized that I was actually that I could actually start there. So in Denmark, we're quite lucky to have free education. So even though I was 34 at that time, I think I was 34, maybe 35, I could attend this program with people who were quite a bit younger than me. So in 2015, I started at the Danish Boat Building Apprenticeship Program, and I loved it. So this program is sort of a mix of going to school, and then you also work in a boatyard. So I did some work at a boatyard, which was mainly a fiberglass repair, storage, maintenance kind of boatyard, like most modern boatyards are. I wasn't able to get a proper wooden boat building apprenticeship. So the work we did there wasn't really what I wanted to do. So after 1 year at this apprenticeship, I actually decided to start out on my own as a self-employed boat builder and boat building teacher. So I've been doing that since 2017 now. So this was the first boat that I built after boat building school. I was lucky enough to have my parents commission one with me. So here we are at Vejlefjord, which is in Denmark, and it's me with my daughter. We just took the boat for a row. This is an Ian Outred designed Guillemot dinghy, so it's a 12-foot boat, which is a glued lap strake boat. So it's made out of marine plywood, which is glued in the lap seams. So that was the first boat I built after boat building school, and it was sort of like, I didn't really know what I was doing, to be honest. So I just tried my best, and the result turned out okay. Although I must admit I had quite a few frustrations along the way. This was boat number 2, which is a Norwegian pram that I built sort of as preparation for a physical boat building class that I did a few years back. So this is a sailing boat. The boat we built at the physical class wasn't a sailboat though, so it's the same hull shape, but it was a rowing boat, just to keep things a little bit simpler. So this is the boat building class, which was held in Holbæk, sort of a shared workshop space. I didn't have my own workshop space at that time, so I was allowed to work from this shared space in Holbæk with the students. So here they're riveting the keel plank together with the plank next to that one, which is known as the garboard plank. So they're copper riveting that. It was a class of 6 people, and we did this this class in 8 days. So we built a Norwegian pram in 8 days. Here we're a little bit further along in the process. So the entire planking is done. Some of the thwarts are in, and some of the knees are in. So we're getting pretty close to launch here. This is probably day 6 or 7, I would say. So this is the class with a finished boat. We're all very proud, and we're all really tired as well, because these 8 days have been, very educational, very fun, but also quite challenging in terms of, building a boat being a lot of work. Proud boat builders testing it. Yeah, so this is really fun, and finishing off these classes, we always did a raffle. So we did a raffle, and rolling a dice, and whenever you get a 6, you own the boat, so to say. And then I have a timer set, and when the timer rings its bell. Whoever has the golden rowlock, which you get when you roll a 6, gets the boat. So that was the lucky winner. So he got the boat on top of the roof rack of his car. Fun thing is that we built a Norwegian pram, and this guy was actually Norwegian, even though we did the class in Denmark. So he got to take the boat home, which was great. So these physical classes, just to let you know why I want to talk about these physical classes, sort of to contrast them to the online way of teaching that I'm focusing on now. So these physical classes they really are a lot of fun, and it's really fun to be in a group and building something together. But they're really, really exhausting too. So we worked very long days, and we worked 8 days straight. And as you can perhaps see, some of these guys are not quite as young as they used to be. So, a lot of people just got really, really tired in the process. Another sort of drawback to these physical classes is that all students don't get to do all tasks. So building a boat in 8 days, even though we were a relatively large group of people, we need to be really, really efficient. So we need to build the boat as fast as we possibly can. So we sort of get into groups, and one group does one thing, one group does another thing, and we try to, finish the boat as quick as we possibly can and as efficiently as we possibly can. But the drawback to this, of course, is that all students don't get to do all tasks, so you don't get around everything. Another drawback that I found in these physical classes, although they're great, although they're a lot of fun, you do learn a lot, I found that it's really hard to absorb all the knowledge and all the information in so little time. It's kind of a little bit overwhelming, I feel, for students to get into this boat building mode, which is so intense. So my feeling is that you do learn a lot, but you also forget quite fast because it's so intense. Another problem with the physical classes is that the simple logistics can be really difficult for some people. Just taking 8 days off can be a lot for a lot of people, and going to a physical place can be difficult. Finding a place to stay can be difficult. So the logistics can be kind of hard. Okay. So now it sounds like I don't like physical classes. I really do, but I think they do have some drawbacks as well. Okay. So after doing a few of these physical classes, 2020 came, and the COVID pandemic, and I was just like, okay, what should I do now? I've taught these physical classes, which have been, they've been pretty good, although they also have their drawbacks and their problems. But all of a sudden, I couldn't teach these physical classes anymore. So what should I do? So I started thinking. So my thought was, what if I could create a boat building apprenticeship where you work from your home workshop at your own pace, building your skills while you build a beautiful boat for yourself and your family. So that was kind of the core idea. So an online boat building course with video-based instructions and personal support. So when I first thought about this, I was not sure whether I would do a course about general boat building skills, or if I should do a course or a program about building a specific boat. But I realized that if you want to do a course about general boat building skills, there are so many ways of building boats. There are so many techniques. It would be really difficult to cover everything. There would always be sort of holes, and that was my thought at least. always be students who were like, okay, I'm building this model, what about this? Or I'm building this particular boat, what about this? So I thought it would be kind of difficult, because it would have to be like an enormous material in order to be comprehensive enough to help the students build a boat from A to Z, so to say. So what I decided to do was to make a program course, or actually I'm calling it an apprenticeship, about a specific boat, because this will allow me to go enough into detail, cover everything you need to know, even if you're a complete beginner in boat building. But which boat should be the first one then? So there are so many different boat types out there, and there are a lot of great plans, and I needed to pick one. And I had kind of fallen a little bit in love with this model, which is a Harry Bryan design. It's called the Fiddlehead Canoe. So it's a so-called double paddle canoe, which means it's a canoe-shaped hull, but it's propelled with a double paddle, a bit like a kayak, and it also has a deck and a coaming like a kayak does. So it's kind of a mix between a canoe and a kayak, so with the hull shape of a canoe and the decking and the double paddle of a kayak. So I decided to try it out, build one of these to see if it would be a suitable project for a beginner in boat building, and a suitable project for this online boat building apprenticeship. So this is actually the workshop that I'm sitting in right now. Perhaps you can see that white thing there. It's actually the thing you can see in the background, just next to the guide rail. So yeah, but as mentioned earlier, this isn't a workshop anymore. This is just a storage room right now. This is where we are. Okay, so why the Fiddlehead Canoe? For one thing, it's built out of real natural wood. So a lot of boat building projects for beginners these days are made out of plywood, which is great. I don't have anything against it, but I really like working in natural wood. So I think it's sort of the feeling of working with natural wood instead of working with plywood is just for me something entirely different. So I wanted this course to be about a boat that was built out of natural wood. That said, the Fiddlehead Canoe can be built out of plywood, but it's designed to be built with natural wood. Another factor which was important to me is that the construction techniques, the construction techniques that are involved in the build should be interesting. They should be relatively varied, so you don't have a lot of doing the same thing over and over again for like weeks. Because this is a learning project, so it's not primarily about producing the boat. It's primarily about learning, having fun, enjoying the process. So I wanted the construction techniques to be as interesting and varied as possible. I also wanted it to be a relatively quick and easy build. So obviously boats take a long time to build because they are quite complex. You know, the shapes are complex, the joinery is relatively complex. There are almost no, square joints or 90-degree joints. So it does take some time, but for a boat, this project is relatively quick and easy to build. And the last thing is, aside from the construction and the materials, is that I wanted the finished boat to be, fun, easy, versatile to use. So, and I thought the Fiddlehead Canoe would be a good, a good boat in all these respects. So this was the test boat as it turned out. So this is my father who is in it. He's trying out the boat. It's really fun and easy to use, I also tried out the boat with my daughter, who was, I think she was 5 years old at the time when we launched this first boat that I built as practice, so to say. and she could just, paddle away without any problems. So it's easy to put it on the roof rack of a car. It's easy to use, and I think it's a beautiful boat that allows you to go all sorts of interesting places. So I think it's a pretty great project, and I'm really happy that I picked that for this first course at Small Boat School, or this first apprenticeship, as I like to call it. Okay. So after deciding to build this type of boat, I invited in a group of what I call pilot apprentices. So I realized really quickly that just building the boat and video recording it and just teaching out in the blue would be much too difficult for me, because I wouldn't know what people really need. So I invited in a group of pilot apprentices, as I called them. So that was a very small group. I think there were 7 pilot apprentices who followed me building the second boat, which is also a Fiddlehead Canoe, this time a longer model, so the 2-person model. So I did video recordings of this build, and then I did some rough edits, and then we had, I think it was every 3 weeks, we had a Zoom session, a live Zoom session, where I presented this rough cut video material, and I talked with these pilot students about the process. So that was kind of a way for me to learn what students actually need when they build a boat. So I got some great feedback from these people, which has helped me a lot in sort of refining the concept as I was building it. Yeah. So the first things I did was, of course, I built a website and I built a YouTube channel, and that was how I got these pilot students interested in the concept. And then I invited this small group of people to build a boat along with me while providing feedback. Yeah. And this was a pretty huge amount of work. So building the boat in itself takes quite a bit of time. Video recording while you build a boat, it maybe takes twice as long. And editing also took a long time. So it was quite a bit of work. But it was a lot of fun too, and it taught me a lot about how online teaching works. So and since then, I've been working on fine-tuning everything. So re-editing everything, re-editing all the video material so that it's really down to the point, really refined, so that it can, I wouldn't say that it can stand alone, but it can stand alone much better than the rough cut material could. So I'm not quite sure how many hours of material we started out with. It was a lot. So now the video material has been edited down to 13 hours, which is still, it's quite a lot of video to consume, but I've really tried to make it as concise as I possibly could, making it really condensed so that you won't have to watch too much, so you can find your information really easily. Okay, so that was a little bit of background. If you have questions, let me know. Bedford, thanks a lot for joining in. We've been emailing a little bit, Bedford and I. Okay. So what I'd like to talk about now is a concept that I call the Apprenticeship Way of Learning. What is this? So the Apprenticeship Way of Learning has 3 stages. So stage 1 is that the apprentice is shown how a task in the boat building process is done. So that might be, copper riveting. How do you hold the hammer? How do you hold the bucking iron? How do you put the rove on top of the nail? How do you drive it on? How do you nip it off? How do you shape the head of the nail? These kinds of tasks. So the apprentice is first shown how a task in the boat building process is done. The next step in the Apprenticeship Way of Learning is that the apprentice does the same task, but on their own. The third and final step in the apprenticeship way of learning is that the apprentice gets feedback and help in relation to the work they've just done. So it's kind of a loop. And at small boat school, the instructions are video based. So traditionally, when you're a boat building apprentice, you'd have your boat building mentor or the master boat builder showing you how it's done, physically standing next to you, showing you what you should do. But in the case of small boat school, the instructions are video based. Next, you do what I call homework. So what you've seen on the video, you do at home in your own workshop. In the traditional physical boat building apprenticeship, you would be doing it in your mentors or your master boat builder's workshop, of course. So you'll be doing the tasks that he's just shown you. Third step is that you get feedback or help if needed. So in the case of small boat school, you post your work at the online forum, at the Apprentice Forum, and I get back to you with feedback, or if you have questions, if there's anything you're unsure of, or if there's anything that doesn't work as you want it to, I'll help you out there. So, and that's actually, again, exactly the same as in a traditional boat building apprenticeship, where you would have your master boat builder checking your work, and if you have problems along the way during the process, you'll be able to get help by asking, your master boat builder or your mentor how it's actually done. Oops. Okay, so it's sort of this loop. Where you get your video-based instructions first, then you do your homework, and then you get feedback and help, and then you get a new video-based instruction. Okay, do we have video again? Perhaps we do. Okay, so we have video again, and we do have sound, I believe. The thing is that my mouse, I can't really control the computer mouse right now. Just try to see if I release it from here, it might work. Okay, that's better, I think. All right. Thanks, Mike. Okay, so these 3 stages in the Apprenticeship Way of Learning, I'd just like to dive a little bit deeper into these. So the first stage I call knowledge in the mind. So it's where you see how a particular job in the boat building process is done, which gives you knowledge in your brain about how to do the work. The next step I call knowledge in the hands. That's where you do your homework or you do your exercises. And that's all about moving these skills from your brain and into your hands and into your body. The only way you can do this is by practicing, doing the work for yourself. It does take some time, but it's absolutely necessary if you want to learn. You can't learn boat building just by watching video or by watching somebody else do it. You really need to move it from your mind and into your body. So there's an interesting concept that you might have heard about called muscle memory. So that's your body learning through many repetitions how to do a specific task with little or no conscious effort. So playing music, for example, is one example, or riding a bicycle or walking, you don't think about it at all, you just do it. But learning it was actually, took a little bit of time. So that's called muscle memory, and we have that a lot in boat building. So in boat building, you'll need to spend many hours practicing using the various tools and working on the various processes involved. So watching a video is one thing, but after that you need to spend quite a bit of time practicing doing the same thing again yourself. Okay, so the great thing about this is that, just like kids learning to walk or riding a bicycle, this practice won't really feel like practice. It'll feel like building a boat, because it'll take place while you're actually working on building your actual boat. So learning to use a hand plane, for example, might be, frustrating or boring if you were just taking off shavings for no reason. But if you're actually building your boat, it won't really feel like practice, because you're absorbed in the process of building the actual boat. Okay, so those were the 2 first stages. So the first was knowledge in the mind. The second was moving the knowledge from the mind into the hands and the body. So the third stage in the Apprenticeship Way of Learning I call feedback and support. So that's about all those times where things don't go as they're supposed to, So in boat building in particular, I think, but in, creative work in general and probably life in general, there are times, where things don't go as you expect them to. So you might make mistakes, or your setting might, just be a little bit different. Your tool might be a little bit different. Your workshop or your wood might be a little bit different. So things might not always go as you planned. And or perhaps you're just unsure how to move on for some reason or the other. So that's where the third part of this apprenticeship model comes into play, which is feedback and support. So why can't it just be covered in the video material? And I touched on that very briefly right now. So the thing is that everyone is different. Everybody works in a different workshop. Everyone has different tools. Everyone uses different wood. Everyone has different skills to begin with. And perhaps most importantly, everybody makes different mistakes. So mistakes are a natural and integral part of the boat building process. So you can't avoid making mistakes. I've made so many mistakes in my boat building career so far, I won't even try to count them, I make so many mistakes. But I don't really think that boat building is about avoiding to make these mistakes. It's much more about learning how to deal with them. And dealing with the mistakes in a way that doesn't derail the project. so that doesn't make you, give up or, just cancel the project halfway because it just became too frustrating. So it's really about, sort of managing your way through all these little mistakes that inevitably will occur. So in the traditional apprenticeship, the mentor or the master boat builder will be there to give instructions and to check up on the apprentice's work and make suggestions for improvements, and also to help and answer questions. And at Small Boat School, I want it to be exactly the same way, because I think it's just so important to have access to these things, so that when you are unsure of anything, or when you make a mistake, or if there's just something that doesn't work the way you want it to, you have somebody to go to where you can ask your questions and you can get your help. And also, whenever you've finished a process, when you've completed a part of your project, and you can show it off, just to help you to make you certain that you're actually on the right track, that you're doing it right, that you're not sort of building a mistake into your boat, which will turn out as a big problem later on in the process. So I want Small Boat School and this online apprenticeship that I'm building, I want it to be just like a traditional wooden boat building apprenticeship. But, and here comes the differences, this apprenticeship is self-paced, so you don't have me, standing at the other end saying, you must work 8 hours a day and you need to work faster, and the customer will be, unhappy if you don't finish it by tomorrow. I won't say that. This boat building apprenticeship will be entirely self-paced, because you are the client. You're building the boat for yourself, for your family. So that's one thing. It's self-paced. I want it to be stressless. And then the other thing is, of course, that it's taken into the digital age. So I won't be there physically, but I'll be there in the video material, and I'll be there to give you feedback and support whenever you need it. So, but essentially, I think it's, it will work just like a traditional boat building apprenticeship does. Actually, I think it has some advantages over the traditional boat building apprenticeship, in the sense that, first of all, you don't need to rush. You can work at your own pace, and you can take the time to learn. So that's, I think that's a big thing. And the other thing is that the video material is really, I've put a lot of effort into making it very clear, and you can watch it as many times as you want. So if there's anything you're unsure of, you can re-watch the material again and again to make sure you're doing everything the right way, which isn't really, well, I would say you wouldn't want to ask your mentor to repeat the same process like 10 times. So I think there are some advantages to it as well. Okay. So another concept that I'd like to talk about, that now that we've been through this concept called the Apprenticeship Way of Learning. So this loop is about breaking down complex work. So one of the things that I've found that keeps a lot of beginners from completing a boat building project, or perhaps from even starting it, is a feeling of overwhelm. So I can remember that feeling very clearly before I started out in boat building. Like, a boat is just so crazy complex. So I had problems even, just making a 45-degree miter when I was, perhaps doing some paneling at home to make that look nice and tight. So I was just like, okay, this boat, which is such a complex shape, and you have all these things that need to fit together. The hull needs to be strong, it needs to be seaworthy, it needs to be watertight, it should be beautiful, it's like, how is that even possible? So I felt really, really overwhelmed about this. So it's just like, how do you possibly do that? And And I feel that a lot of other people feel the same way when it comes to boat building. It feels really, really overwhelming. So building a wooden boat can seem extremely complicated, and it can be really hard to figure out where to start and how to move on. But it doesn't really have to be that way. So that's what I'd like to talk about now, breaking down the complexity in boat building. So it's true that a wooden boat in its entirety is quite complex, but each little task that's involved in building it is actually not as complicated as a lot of people would think. So I think boat building is simple when you learn how to do the various basic tasks and put them together in the correct order. So I'd like to elaborate a little bit on that. So when I designed the Fiddlehead Canoe course, one of the things I wanted to do was to break down the boat building process as much as I possibly could. So building the entire boat, I think that took me around 300 hours. A beginner would probably spend quite a bit longer building a boat. But if you break it down into bite-sized lessons, so the course, as you will see in a little bit, has the main course, which is about building the actual boat, has 30 lessons. So they're all bite-sized, so they're constrained to a few relatively simple tasks, which can be completed in a relatively short amount of time, and which involves a limited number of skills and new things that you need to learn. So this is the course syllabus for the apprenticeship program here. So it's divided into two sections. So the first one is called Mastering Basic Boat Building Skills, and you've actually had access to, if you've signed up to my newsletter, and if you've signed up to the free access program that I've been running over the last month or so, you'll probably have seen some of this content, which is from the Mastering Basic Boat Building Skills program. So the first 10 lessons here are all about all the skills you need to learn before you start building your boat. So it's about reading boat plans, setting up a workshop, finding the tools you'll need, finding the wood you'll need, milling, sharpening, using planes, using saws, doing accurate measuring and marking, using machinery, using glues and fasteners, and all those sorts of basic core skills that you will need sort of as the foundation for your boat building project. So that's sort of the introduction to everything. The next section, oops, I guess I'm leaping a little bit ahead. Each lesson in the preparatory course will help you get a new skill and get you ready to build your boat. Exactly. Okay. Then we have the main course, which is called Building the Fiddlehead Canoe, which has 30 lessons. So as you can see, they're very concrete in the sense that they're like building the bottom panel, building the watertight bulkhead, building the midframe, building the stems. So they're not general, they're very specific to the task that you need to do. But again, each of these lessons are quite bite-sized. Each lesson will perhaps be, I don't know, it can vary a little bit, maybe 10 hours, maybe 20 hours of work, and then you're done doing this lesson. And as it says in the slide, each lesson in the main course will help you build a new part of your boat while you're growing your skills too. And that's what I think is part of the fun of this program, is the fact that you're growing your skills while you're building the boat at the same time. So this is the course syllabus, the 30 lessons. So the typical lesson structure is like this. So there's a brief introduction to the lesson. Then there's one or more videos where I show hands-on how the work covered in the lesson is done. So that was, if you remember, the Apprenticeship Way of Learning loop. So that's number one, seeing how the process is done. Then there's the homework section in the lesson, where I tell you about the work you should do before proceeding to the next lesson. So and this links to the Small Boat School Apprentice Forum, because that's where you'll be posting your homework, and this is where you'll be posting your questions. So what is the Apprentice Forum? So it's an online forum which is built into the Small Boat School website. It's the place where you can get feedback on your work, and it's where you can get help whenever you're stuck or whenever you've made a mistake. So this is how it works. So when you've watched your video instructions in the lesson, there's a homework page on the website which specifies the work that you need to do. So that might be getting your workshop ready, or it might be assembling your hand planes, or it might be sharpening, or it might be fastening exercises, or it might be building the mid-frame on the Fiddlehead Canoe, or whatever. So there's like sort of this homework job that you need to do. And once you're done doing this, you post a photo or a video of it to the Apprentice Forum. When you've done that, I'll read the post and I'll provide some feedback. So sometimes, if everything looks great, I'll just, give you a little cheer and say, well done and good job. Sometimes, if I can see you've made a mistake, or if I have suggestions for improvements, I'll of course mention that. As mentioned, homework for the preliminary course, so the one that's called Mastering Basic Boat Building Skills. This will usually be, a photo or some written documentation of the work you've done as preparation for your build. For the main course, the homework will usually, be a photo of this part of the boat that you've been building. So the bottom panel, or the stems, or the frames, or the first set of planks, or the decking, or whatever it might be. So you'll be posting photos of that, so I can make sure that you're on the right track. And so I can give you some, some advice if needed. Yeah. So that's what the homework is about, and the homework is always posted at the Apprentice Forum. As mentioned, the Apprentice Forum is not just the place where you post your work and everybody is cheering for you. It's also the place where you can get help if there's anything you're unsure of, which is very likely to happen. So if there's anything you don't know how, if you don't know how to proceed, if there is anything you need help with, or if you're feeling stuck, this is where you ask your question. I'll be there to help, and other students might be there to help as well if they have experience with the particular problem that you're struggling with. Yeah. So this apprenticeship way of learning is sort of, it has two layers, in the sense that it has the loop that we talked about, but it's also very much about this bite-sized, these bite-sized lessons that sort of keep you from getting overwhelmed. So I've tried to divide all the things that you need to learn, and all the little tasks that are involved in building the actual boat, into these micro tasks, and each of these micro tasks are then processed through this loop of video-based instructions, doing your homework, posting it on the forum, and getting feedback and help. So you'll go through this loop a lot of times. Yeah, and I think that this is a great way of learning these, relatively complex jobs, as building a boat is the entirety of a boat, at least, is pretty complex. But if you break it down like this into micro tasks, you get good, clear instructions. You move the knowledge from your mind into your hands and into your body, and you get feedback and help, then I feel that you're on a very good track to learning how wooden boats are built. Okay, so a little bit more about the Apprentice Forum, because one thing is the fact that I'll be at the Apprentice Forum and I'll be there to help you whenever you have problems. I'll be there to give you feedback when you've done a bit of work on your boat or a bit of preparation work before you've started building your boat. So, but there's more to the Apprentice Forum for me. And actually, I think the video material is very important. It is a cornerstone of the Fiddlehead Canoe program, but actually I think the Apprentice Forum is more important than that, because I think it's what makes Small Boat School a real school, even though it's online based. So it's where you'll be sharing your work, challenges, your successes, and the other apprentices will do the same thing. So there'll be a whole group of boat lovers from across the globe who'll be rooting for you. So they will learn from your mistakes, you will learn from theirs. And we'll all be celebrating our successes together. So I think that's a beautiful thing. So I think the community at the online forum is really, really important. So building a boat is, of course, about learning some techniques, but it's also about motivation. It's also about celebration. It's about not feeling alone, I think. Yeah. So, and that's what I hope and think the forum will be able to do, because you'll be a big group of people who will be on the same journey towards learning, and you'll all make lots of mistakes. You will all have frustrations, but you'll all have successes as well. So I think meeting other people and being together in this sort of setting will be a lot of fun, and I think it'll be a big part of the motivation of moving forward in the boat building learning process. Okay, so that was sort of the more theoretical parts about how everything works, all the thoughts that I've put into it. So a little bit more on the practical side is, how do you access the course material? So the course material can be found at smallboatschool.com, the website, where you log into the student section of the website to find the course material and the Apprentice Forum. And I would like to show you. So I'll just see if I can switch to the browser here. Just a moment. Browser. See if I can make it work. Doesn't work right now. Okay, just a moment. So all this computer technology is a little bit challenging for me at times. Okay, let's see if I can add a source here. Window. Just a moment. Okay. So I just need to scale it. So now I think you should be able to see my browser window. Is that correct? Okay. So here we have it. Just a moment. So this is the Small Boat School website. So where you log in is in the top right corner. So there's a login button. So I'm just clicking that. And then you log in with an email and a password. And then you get into the My School section, which has this course called Building the Fiddlehead Canoe. So I'll just click that, where you have all your lessons. So there's a course introduction here first, where I explain many of the same things that I've explained today about the Apprenticeship Way of Learning and how the entire course is structured, how the Apprentice Forum works. So that's the introduction. Then we have the first part of the course, which is mastering basic boat building skills. So as mentioned earlier, 10 lessons where you learn all the basic things you need to have in place before you start building the actual boat. As you can see, there are the introductions, there are the videos, and then there are the homework sections. Okay, so I'll just scroll through this pretty quick. So that's the basic course. So and this is part 2, which is about building the Fiddlehead Canoe. So this part consists of 30 lessons. Starts out with building the stems, then we have the midship frame, the watertight bulkheads, bottom panel, and so forth. So that's what it looks like down here, and we're just lesson 39, final details, and then we have launch day. So I'll just click into one of these lessons. Let's say how to read boat plans. So this is my introduction. I won't bother you with that. Then we have the actual lesson here, which explains how to read boat plans. Once you've watched that, you move on by pressing the next button to the homework section. So the homework section in this case is building a scale model of the Fiddlehead Canoe. And once you're done with that, perhaps you can see it says homework, post a few photos of your model on the forum. So what you'll do here is click this link, and you'll be sent to the forum, where you'll be posting photos of your scale model. So this is Dan, who was one of the pilot apprentices who actually built not a cardboard model but a balsa wood model. So he's been so he's posted a photo of that, giving him some feedback. So that's basically how it works. So you watch, I'll just click back here. So you watch the instructions, then you do the homework based on the instructions, then you go to the forum and you post your post photos or videos of your work, and then you get feedback and support. And as mentioned earlier, if you have problems along the way, you're always welcome to post your questions on the forum as well, and I'll get back to you as quick as I can. So that's the website. It's quite simple, really, I think. So I'll just go back to the slideshow, if that works. Let's see. Okay, here we are, I think. Okay. So there will be some requirements. So attending a physical school would, of course, require you to show up at a physical location at a specified time. With this program, you can do the work whenever it suits your schedule. You can work evenings or weekends or whenever is right for you, but you do need to have a place to work. So you'll need access to a suitable workshop. So that might be a barn or a garage, or it might be a shared workshop, community workshop, but you do need access to a workshop which is large enough and which has the facilities you'll need. So the course material does include instructions and guidelines as to what this workshop space should include and how it should be, how it should be fitted out to work. Also, you'll need access to the relevant tools. So there's a video about that as well, which I think most of you have probably seen already because it's a part of the free preview that I've launched. If you haven't seen it yet, then let me know by writing me an email, and I'll send you a link to these videos about setting up the workshop and setting up, the relevant tools. So you need a workshop, you'll need tools, but you'll also need the building materials. So you'll need wood, you'll need glue, sealants, screws, nails, varnish, paint, stuff like that. So you'll need to purchase these things as well. And finally, you'll need to spend a lot of time on the project. So as I think I mentioned, I spent around 300 hours building each of these little canoes. A beginner will probably I just saw Mike's message here. Me too. Okay. Sorry. So you'll need to spend quite a bit of time on this project. So it'll be several hundred hours. So it's definitely not a project to embark on if you just want to be done. I think it's really important that you do it for the process, and you do it because you think it's fun. So a requirement previous woodworking experience is not required, because I'll explain everything down to, I would say the most basic details. So everything is explained down to how to use the various hand tools, how to sharpen them, all these sorts of things. But I would say that if you do have some woodworking experience already, it's an advantage, because you won't have to spend quite as long time learning everything from scratch. So it's not required, but it's an advantage. Okay, so you're probably curious to hear about what the price of this program is. So the price of the Building the Fiddlehead Canoe Apprenticeship Program is $95 per month for 12 months if you opt for that, or you can opt for a one-time payment of $995. So while it might seem like a lot of money, it's actually less than you'd pay for 1 week at most physical boat building schools. And I feel that what you will learn during this program is probably around what you would learn at a 6-month course at a physical boat building school. So it's quite comprehensive. So I did a 6-month program at the Danish Boat Building School, and I would say that I probably didn't quite learn as much as I would learn from building a fiddlehead canoe. So I think it requires more of you and your self-motivation. You need to do a little bit more on your own, even though you do have the support both from the forum and from other students and from me. But it is a little bit more of a self-motivated course. But the amount of learning that you can achieve through it, I think, is quite quite large, quite substantial. Yeah, so the price here is around what you'd pay for 1 week at a physical boat building school. And it's, maybe a 10th or a 20th of what you'd pay for a 6-month program at a physical school. And again, I think, these programs can't really be compared. It's a bit like, comparing pears to apples. But I would say that what you learn through this program will be not too far from what you would learn at a 6-month program at a physical boat building school. It will require more of you because you'll be working more independently, but the potential for learning is pretty great, I think. So what you get through the program is you get a set of printed plans shipped to your door. So when you register, you provide your postal address, and once you've done that, you watch the first few lessons. Then you have to decide on which size fiddlehead canoe you want to build. If you want to build the short 10.5 foot model, the slightly longer 12 foot model, or the long 14.5 foot 2-person Fiddlehead Canoe. Once you've done that, I order the plans directly from Harry Bryan, who designed the Fiddlehead Canoe, and he'll ship the plans to you. So you get this set of plans shipped to your door. Then, as mentioned, you will get access, not early access, you get access to the course material and the Apprentice Forum, and you'll get a lot of personal attention from me. So this is, I've had a small group of pilot students attending this this course, but this is the first time it's launched, to the broader public. So there are not a lot of students just yet. So I have plenty of time to give you a lot of personal attention. So that's what you'll get. Risk and stress-free. So this heading is actually incorrect. It says the Apprentice Pilot Program. That's just a remnant from an old slideshow. So it's supposed to say the Fiddlehead Canoe Apprentice Program. So it's risk and stress-free nevertheless. So there's a 30-day full money-back guarantee. So regardless if you opt for the 12 monthly rates or the the single payment, you get a 30-day full money-back guarantee. So if you decide, you get access to the entire material right away. So you get access to everything. You get the plans shipped to your door. And if you decide that it's not for you and you don't, for any reason feel that it's not a good fit, then simply let me know, write me an email, and I'll refund the full amount with no questions asked. So I really want it to be a good fit, It's really important for me that it's fun and you feel that it works for you, because otherwise it's no good. Yeah. So there's a 30-day full money-back guarantee. And the course has no end date. So as mentioned earlier, it probably takes around 500 to 600 hours for most builders, first-time builders, to complete the Fiddlehead Canoe, complete this program. But how long it will take you in terms of weeks or months can vary immensely, depending on how much time you have on your hands. A lot of people only have maybe a day every other weekend. Some people, if you're just retired, you might be able to work every day. So it can vary immensely how long it actually takes to complete the boat. So for me, it's really, really important that building a boat is stress-free, so that it's something you do because it's fun and because you feel it's recreational, you feel it's educational, and it's stimulating. It has to be fun. That's really, really important for me. So for that reason, your access to the course material, the video material, and your access to support doesn't have an end date. So even if you pay, the 12 monthly rates, so after this year is over, you still have access to the course material as long as you want, and you still have access to support as long as you want. So if it takes you 2 years, or 3 years, or 5 years to complete the boat, that's perfectly okay. I just want you to, enjoy the process and take it at your own pace. So the course has no end date in that way. So once you've either paid the one-off fee or paid the 12 monthly rates, then you own the course for as long as you need it, and you have access to support as long as you need it. And I've just opened the program for registration. So if you want to register, you just go to smallboatschool.com/registration. I'll send you an email with the link, maybe later today or early tomorrow, so you can check it out. And registration closes in a month, so there'll be 1 month to register. So it'll be a little bit like regular schools. I'll open up this course twice a year. So once in August and once in January or February. And the reason I've decided to do this, even though it's an online class, so it's like, why couldn't you just start whenever you want, is the fact that I really want you to follow a group of other builders in order to make the community element of doing the program as strong as possible. So even though you will be working at a different pace, most likely, I think it's really nice to start at more or less the same time, so that you have a group of people that that can follow you and that can follow your progress, and that are sort of at the same level and perhaps also at the same pace as you are. So you have a month to register, and once the registration closes in August, I will start becoming more available on the forum. So I'll expect you to start to begin doing some work, getting your workshops ready, start collecting your tools and getting them ready, perhaps starting on finding your wood and slowly starting building your boat. So I'll be available at the forum. Actually, the forum software has just been updated with some live video functionality, and I'll probably be testing that out as well, doing some FAQ sessions or some live sessions at the forum, maybe once a month or every 2 weeks, where you can ask questions and get feedback in a live format. So, but I'm not perfectly sure about that yet. I just need to check it out. Okay. Questions? Okay, so I can see there's a question from Now Watch This. How much is the program value? I just connected. The program value, I guess that would be the price. I'll just move back to that. Here we are. There. So now watch this. There are two different options. So there's one option where you pay in 12 monthly rates, which is $95 per month. Or you can, if you want to save a little bit of money in the long run, you can opt for a one-time payment, which is $9.95. Okay. Other questions? Bedford? Mike? Anyone else? Let me know. And if you have questions, you can also simply write me an email. So you can reply to one of the emails that I've sent you via the email list. And yeah, I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. So I hope this all makes sense. It's been quite a while underway from my side. I've been doing a lot of thinking about this, and I've tried to make it, into what I would have wanted when I started out building boats. So as mentioned, I went to the Danish boat building school, which I loved, and then I was an apprentice at a boat yard where what we learned was basically fixing fiberglass, scraping off old bottom paint, hauling boats out, getting them into the water again. Not all that interesting. So when I set out to learn boat building, I felt pretty alone, and I was quite unsure what to do, and I made so many mistakes. So what I really needed at that point was actually a mentor, and what I really needed was a community as well. So that's what I'm trying to create here. I want to be your mentor who shows you in detail how everything is done, and who helps you whenever you run into problems of any sort. And then I hope that the Apprentice Forum will be this community where we support and encourage each other to keep on going, and if we run into problems, we sort of try to cheer up each other, and whenever we have successes, we try to celebrate together. So I think that'll be a lot of fun. So I have some questions here. So there's Mike who asks, do you have any suggestions for the epoxy and weight of fiberglass? So the Fiddlehead Canoe does not include fiberglass. It does include some epoxy. So the epoxy in the Fiddlehead Canoe is used as a glue, and also in some cases as a moisture barrier. So, but actually you won't need to use any fiberglass cloth for the Fiddlehead Canoe build. Yeah. So you won't need to worry about that. So if you're building so let's say a strip plank canoe, you would want to coat it in epoxy and fiberglass, because otherwise it won't have the strength you need. But this lapstrake hull has enough strength built into it already that you won't need to use fiberglass sheathing. And it's not that, I think fiberglass sheathing can be great, but it's also kind of messy to work with. It's not all that fun to work with. So one of the reasons I chose this design was actually because it has a minimum of messing with glue in, big hazmat suits and wearing gloves. It does have a little bit of that in some, limited areas, but not too much, which I think makes it a very fun build. Yeah, and Mike, you're asking, or is this all covered in the course? Yes, it's all covered in the course, I would say. So there's a lesson in the Mastering Basic Boat Building Skills, sort of the preliminary course, which is all about fastening, which is about fastening with nails and screws, glues, and the various types of glues that we'll be using in the build, including epoxy, the various fillers that we'll be using also. So it should be covered. Okay. And as mentioned, I will be sending you a link to the registration page, but if you want to visit it right now, it's at smallboatschool.com/registration. And as mentioned, please just write me an email if you should have any questions, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So if you don't have any more questions, I'll call it a day now. So thanks a lot for tuning in, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.